go by on this side. Shower. Is there deodorant? I don't know. Nobody's over here. This guy's just closer. This guy's closer. No, we have to send you guys out so you can find some people. I've never seen this side, this country, so it's a little scary for me. And I know we're very late. It is my fault. I take full responsibility for it, but it just couldn't be helped. Anyway, so I'm not going to keep you late after school today, just because we started late. We'll try to kind of end around what we normally do anyway. That's what you plan on. Let's all stand up. I saw the light. We're going country. We're going northern country, whatever it is. I'm still waiting. I want to believe. summertime blues here, so thank you for coming. We really encourage you to be here as much as you possibly can. All the time, but especially in the summer. You know, it can get lonely in here sometimes in July and August. So we still got a few more weeks to struggle through this. School starts, I don't want to say that too loudly. I think it's only about 2 weeks off, isn't it? August 12th. That's right. Okay, a week from this coming Wednesday. Everybody get that in your head. A week from this coming Wednesday, we will be back out at the pool. And we just ask you all to come, even if normally you don't make Wednesday nights, maybe during the year, that's okay. This is a special night, kind of just to help get things stirred up a little bit for the fall. And it's always really fun, dodging the rain. As I said before, and I'm not trying to test you guys, but like, you know, laying the fleece out here, but we have never missed a Wednesday night in all the years we've been doing this, and we have had a major storm every Wednesday we've ever done this. So it's usually over in time for us. We usually sit in the parking lot and watch it. Reenactment of Noah's flood. And then the pool's running over the top, and we go in and have a good time. If you're saying, well, I'm not going to be caught dead at the pool, well, fine. You don't have to swim or anything. You can come in your regular clothes and stay that way. Plenty of places to sit around. And afterwards, we are having hot dogs and outside out front. It's nothing fancy, but it's always really good. It's a good time for everyone. So come and just fellowship and talk, because we don't get enough of that for sure. So come and just hang out if you can. And if you want to swim, or you know people, kids, neighbors, friends, enemies, anyone you want to bring along with you, this is a good time because we're trying to kind of round people up again. I can't even really imagine that we're already talking about the end of summer, but that's just the way it is. I thought it just started, but anyway, it still feels like it's very much going in full throttle. I'm sure it will for the next 2 to 3 months. But anyway, that's a week from Wednesday. I think the date is the 7th.
The 7th, and also I want to say, if anybody says, well, there's no place to sit, and it's been renovated since last year, so there are covered places for people to sit. It's kind of cool. Yeah,
there's more seating area than there has been before. So, come out there and hang out. There's no charge for it or whatever. Just come. We used to have people donate $1, but we don't fool with it anymore. Just don't want to mess with it. Anyway, so that's a week from Wednesday. That's the next event you need to remember. Now, we don't have a picture for this yet, because we want to keep life simple for you, but the following Wednesday, which would be, I'm guessing, the 14th? Okay. The 14th, we will be having our kickoff night here. And once again, if you're not able to come on Wednesdays regularly, we still would love to have you on that first Wednesday night here. We're going to do a lot of music, raise the roof, and ravel the windows, break some glass, and we're going to have some food that night too. So it'll be a good night for everyone. Good time to round everybody back up. The kids will be back in school by that day. That's the 14th. They go back on the 12th. I am amazed. If you remember last week, I couldn't tell you what my name was. This week, I remember all sorts of stuff. Let me name the presidents for you. George Washington. And, well, we're not going to name them all. We don't have time today. Anyway, I watched a show yesterday. A 3-year-old was naming all the presidents. So I don't know. I'm going to give up at this point in my life. So I don't think I'm ever going to get a learn. She could also do the, I think it's geological chart and chemical element and all this stuff. Anyway, it's a good thing there's people like that. They become the brain surgeons, You don't want me operating on your brain, whether I've been to school or not. Because look at this guitar as an example. That hole in it. Anyway, so I don't know why I got off of that, except that I drank a whole bunch of coffee this morning. Well, that's good. You wouldn't want me the way I was. So anyway, coffee always has a tendency to charge things up, but it makes me a little more alert as well. Take a breath. We're glad you're here. And that was an honor. So there will not be anything here this Wednesday night. And teenagers, CrossFit group, 180 bunch. I remind you one more time that we will not get the pizza this week. I want to take one Wednesday night off, so before we start back up. Anyway, and we run out of money, but last week, I was embarrassed the amount of pizza we had. We had a pile of pizza. And our group grew from about 8 to I think 26 last Wednesday. Those are not all kids, there are a few adults that came along with kids, but they come with them sometimes. But anyway, we've seen about 30 different teenagers come through there. And if you know anything about our group, it's very small right now. We're trying to rebuild it basically from the ground up again. So we've met a bunch of kids and had a bunch of other kids stop by. We hope they'll come to the pool and come here eventually and be part of what we're doing. Okay, I think that's it for announcements. Unless anybody has a question or something I'm forgetting about. Always look to Diane, who is probably talking to someone somewhere in that building. I'm pretty sure. Yes, okay. And that's okay. She doesn't do that to skip out of church. She'd like to be in here occasionally, but it's a ministry for her to talk with people. Not that we on her. She enjoys that. Does that a lot on Sunday mornings. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're going to move ahead. Mike, let's adjust these lights. More than I can take this morning. I don't know if there are any new people here this morning. I really didn't look close enough, but I don't think so. Most of you know that we have communion during this time, and you're welcome to take part. We're not going to send the kids out till after this time because we're still okay on our time yet. The communion is on the table right back there where that candle is. And if you'd like to take communion, you're welcome to go back and get a little packet if you didn't get one when you came in. That's between you and the Lord, nobody else, so take part if you choose to. But I would encourage you to be in prayer. Most of you know that Carrie went to be with the Lord yesterday. If you don't know that, Carrie Cordova finally threw in the towel yesterday after an unbelievable battle with cancer for over 5 years and several other diseases. She's come back a bunch of times, from death's door, but this time God told her to come on in, so she's gone. There will be a service here, but I have no idea when that is. And that's going to be right away or down the road. So if it's this week, you're just going to have to look on Facebook. We try to get the word out best we can. As many of you knew her, either from the church or from the play. She was one of a kind. About that. So really missed. Already missed. Always missed. Been missed for a long time because she's been pretty much bedridden for 6 months anyway. Now she's running around, and some of the others have gone before her just recently. But we're here. We're here to love the Lord, serve Him, get close to Him, let Him use us to help people, reach out any way we possibly can. And so, pray about all that. Kids, we don't have too many little people here this morning. I just don't see them if they're here. You can be in prayer too. God, this was you. You probably get through where we don't sometimes. So just talk to the Lord and seek Him out. He's good. So if you'd like to light a candle for somebody this morning, we may have a time to light all these today. Maybe we can get one that will take everybody probably. Light a candle for someone that you're concerned about, someone you're trying to reach. Touch for the Lord and bring back into fellowship with Him. And so come to that as we sing and pray.
Let I didn't buy the license.
see Tony. Tony's her son, so if you don't know who he is, that's long security back. Glad to see him this morning. I know he's carrying a heavy load really close to his mom. This little baby is pronounced Rue or what? Figure out the picture of that for sure. Randy's little baby, born doing fine. So be in prayer for that whole family, please. David Torres, Helen Torres. I'm reading these, not because you can't read, but camera doesn't show to the people that are watching online. So David and Helene Torres, very sick. Jim C. He's here this morning. Good to see you, Jim. Got a negative test for cancer, which they were really concerned about. I'm sure you were very concerned. Still dealing with some problems. Melissa is very sick. She is better. She had a reaction last Monday to some medication that put her in the hospital, so a lot of you may not even know that. We didn't put much up about it. Melissa's pretty private about things, but she needs your prayers. She is getting better. She ended up in the ER Tuesday, and feeling better, but not really able to get out and around at all. Jennifer Rogers. And we keep this list all the time, unless you tell us you take someone off of here. Willow, who's here this morning with our family. Glad to see you all. Dak Cordovi, Cleve Richardson, Kelly Owens, Dale Richardson, Georgia, Tina, Jimmy Knight, Nancy Williams, Marjorie Riddle, Amber Price, Jack Russell, Don Kiger. I know you don't know all of these people, but it takes a lot to explain who's related to who, and I probably would get it all right. But Spike Holt, Virgie Ice, Emma Byers, John Marston, Monica Weld, Jason Hendry, Susan and Doug Smith, and Barney, Bishop, his whole family, for various things. So, we'll take just a moment to let you just have a prayer time by yourself. Prayers don't always have to be spoken by the guy up here, girl, whoever. Talk to the Lord, He's listening to you. We're just going to kind of sing a little quietly in the background. You just take some time with God right now. He'll listen to you. He will listen to you. And He's ready there. He's ready all the time just to minister to you, whatever's going on.
everybody's life, in mine for sure, and in yours. We don't come here to compare notes, see who's in bigger trouble this week. We all face stuff that we don't like to face, sometimes things we can hardly deal with. But the good news about that is when it's really, really hard, that's when God shines. Always there. In our weakness, He's strong. I've known this all my life. I don't always like it. I would rather be stronger, and not have to depend on Him and think, well, if I'm going to really see God in full, living, splendid color, I would be down in a hole. I don't think that was His plan. It just works that way. Then in Acts chapter 2, it seems like eons to me, and maybe it does to you. I don't have to listen to me, you guys do, but it's been a long time. We're going to finish there today, really just kind of dwelling on one point that Emily's going to help me with pretty soon. And the good thing about it, or the bad thing about it for Emily, is she has no clue what I'm talking about. But it needs to be that way for this to work. All right? So, by the way, I meant to mention to you, Marlon is not here this morning. Has he walked in? No. Marlon has been helping out with the church up the road here, so that's why you've missed him a lot of Sunday mornings. They don't have a preacher right now or a worship leader, so he's been doing all of that. Sometimes he comes over here as soon as he gets done, because I know they can't be Baptist because they get done way too quick. But anyway, he's sometimes comes in when he's finished. It depends on how he's feeling or how long things go over there, because they start earlier than us. We're a church that was never interested in starting early. If you guys remember, if you're here from the very beginning, we used to start at 11. I was raised going to go to 11:30, then noon. Wasn't sure where we were headed, so we finally backed it up to 10:30. Anyway, before I get rambling around too much and the coffee takes over, let's put Acts chapter 2 up there, Mike, and let's just go on to verse 42. We spent a bunch of time in this. This is the account, guys, of the first, I know I've said it several times, but the first church service really ever held, you could say, before churches were named and branded and divided up and, made into all sorts of different groups with, different lists of doctrines and all this kind of stuff. Never what God had in mind, know what Jesus wanted for sure. But anyway, this is as virgin and as pure as it gets. And I can tell you, for those of you that feel like it's total chaos around here sometimes, can you imagine the chaos that day? First church service, 3,000 people get baptized. Where's the towels? Where's the robes? How are we going to take care of all these people? They didn't have any programs in place. They didn't have any youth groups. They didn't have any, they did have potluck dinners. They started having those right away. There's something you can always count on people to do, and that is eat. But anyway, especially churches, we like to get together and eat as often as we can. So, what I was helping you to see is a picture of what the church really was when it started in its purity before we had 2,000 years of just really screwing things up in a lot of ways. And we certainly don't have everything figured out here. No church does. We all have weaknesses. As I've told you before, many, many, many things I grew up believing I had to re-examine. Now, I'm not like out there on Mars somewhere. You won't get any tremendous shocks from me, but God's moved me in a lot of directions to things and places I never thought I could be. Because, believe it or not, even though we're not a legalistic group, I was very legalistic a long time ago. I really was. I can remember conversations I had that I wish I'd never had with people. I thought, I'm thinking now, who were you? Well, I was very excited and I was very sincere. But excited and sincere, got Jesus killed. I'm grateful Jesus died for us, but just to be excited, just to be sincere, and make you right. I was wrong a lot of times. I'm still wrong quite often, but God's moved me, and I think we all need to be open to that. So this is kind of about that, but what they did immediately as a result, and I went here because somebody asked me after we had all those baptisms, we had 8 baptisms, about 8 weeks ago, one Sunday morning, and so, they said, now what? What happens to these people? Well, this is what I look at. This is what they did that day when they came and accepted Jesus. And there were 3,000 baptized that day. We don't know how many, if that counted men only or men, women, and children. because of the Bible. That's the way it tends to, the Numbers 10 only refer to men. I tried to figure out how many people they had to baptize in a minute just to get to 3,000. If it was 3,000 men, it could have easily been 10,000 people. I don't know. You know, I just know it was a bunch. Imagine the chaos. But what a beautiful picture. As simple as it is, you know, there were no elders or deacons, no God squads. There just wasn't anything. The apostles were there, and they're probably like, man, this is crazy. Now what do we do? You know, this is just getting out of hand. Well, they just went with it. The Spirit of God was on them in a heavy way, and they taught. So the people immediately began to study the apostles' teaching. Because you understand, the Old Testament was all established. They messed with the canon later again, the church, so to speak, did. But it's basically established by the time of Jesus, the law, the prophets, and the writings, so on. And all Jesus quoted from, I think, every book in the Old Testament, except maybe Esther. I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me. Anyway, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, which was all what they had here. Jesus was already gone. There weren't any Bibles to open up. So they were teaching. So the people were listening to the teaching, and I'm sure they were going over the things Jesus had taught. You know, a man was on his way from, Jericho to Jerusalem, and he fell among thieves. And I'm sure they told the parables over and over, and they did the teachings of Jesus. The people were swallowing, eating this stuff up. They were continually devoting themselves. And I'm not going to get into the word devotion. I looked at it, and guess what it means? Devotion. Okay? It means they were dedicated, literally. Because we're going to look at another verb today, which is more important. They were teaching, and they were in fellowship. That word does mean common mind. And fellowship, I used to think, because every church building in the United States has a what? Except for us, a fellowship hall. So I learned as a kid, fellowship is not when we're gathering together to worship. It's when you go in there to eat. And hope you like the desserts. Well, our hall is everything. It's whatever we need it to be. It's just a room we've dedicated to the Lord. But anyway, they were of one mind, and I long to see that. We've accomplished a great deal when it comes to that, but because we've truly tried to be an actual non-denominational church, that is not easy. In case you don't know about it, it's really hard for this person because if we're really non-denominational, we've got to be able to live with, tolerate a lot of variation in beliefs. Now, if you start saying Jesus is not the Son of God, we're going to have an issue. There's some things that are obviously very basic, but you wouldn't think so when you start looking at some of the churches in the world that have really gone out there into space somewhere. But most of the mainline groups that you know of, that you grew up with, that all of you came from, all these different groups, we've come together and we are very down right now, and as you all know, the church has been down since COVID. We lost about a third of our people, and it's summertime, and we're missing about half of what we've got left. But we've been together. I got to tell you, most of the arguments you hear in the church are about, number one, the thermostat. That's probably, in a survey taken, that was the most commonly asked question in the church. How many kids do we have? How many people we reaching for Jesus? It's who set the thermostat on freaking 70 degrees? I get asked that when I get home, so you guys don't know what I go through. So anyway, I don't know. The other probably questions and concerns and discussions and arguments tend to get into doctrinal things. Unfortunately, we've been able to have discussions like that, but not necessarily agree. That hasn't divided us. It may have divided and caused some people to sever their relationship, but many of us have grown, tremendously. I know this person doesn't believe exactly the way I do about the end of the world, how Jesus is coming back, how it's going to come down, will the white horse have a little black spot on his head? Well, all these things that we find, somehow churches just tend to make them matters of fellowship, and they break apart. We haven't had to deal with that, and I thank God for it. Moving communion back to that table back there, I can remember a time when that would have landed me in jail, probably. Somehow weird way. You don't put communion back there, and it's not any less important to us at all. In fact, you could say that's more prominent because it's right at the door when you walk in. You want to argue about it? There's all kinds of ways we can argue about that. The logistics of it, still very important. So they were involved in that, and they were breaking bread, the breaking of bread. If you look at all the translations, it will put that article the. That denotes something particular. So it's believed, most likely, by just about everybody, not everyone, most people, that was communion. So we went over all that. They were taking communion regularly. What they later called the Lord's Supper. The church named that. Paul mentions that. Anyway, and they're devoted to prayer. If we've let down anywhere, it's prayer in our recent history. It really is. And I will take the responsibility for that because it's been a while since we've really focused heavily on prayer and just got together just simply to pray. And we need to. They were praying on a daily basis. Okay, Mike, move on. Can't feel any sense of awe. We can talk about every one of these phrases that I have in years past. Many wonders, signs were being done through the apostles. Just continue. All those who had believed were together and had all things in common. That's the fellowship, the commonness. And then getting in, they began selling their property and possessions and were sharing them with all as anyone might have need. You can stop right there. So, they were involved in all the elements of worship, communion, fellowship, the teaching of the Word of God in prayer, and I'm sure they were singing. They were probably sitting around saying, we gotta write some new songs, We're all Jews, and for the most part in the beginning, they were all Jews, basically, as far as we know. And so the only songs they probably knew were the Psalms. So I'm sure they sang them, and they're perfectly wonderful. And eventually they began to probably write songs about Jesus. We are one in the Spirit. That came up quite a bit later. But anyway, they sang probably, although it doesn't mention it here. I'm sure that's just something that people have always naturally done. It's close to God's heart, singing. But we talked about this last week. So all that was review. I apologize. The review's going to probably be as long as what's left. But selling their possessions. Now you read more about this in Acts, the 4th chapter. The Spirit of God was on them so heavily, they did not consider any of their own property theirs. Now, that only sounds like, I think I heard like that was in the 60s. But that was drug-induced. But they were selling all their stuff. I don't think they had any stuff to sell. These were, teenagers and 20-somethings that left home and they'd go live on land, and they were all over the place. And I had some dealing with some of those people, and I was accused of being one of those people, and I was, but I was a Jesus people. It's different. It's quite a bit different. The only thing that was similar was long hair. Which, I might as well just join a satanic cult when I went back to my own church. But anyway, my hair was terribly long. I think it covered the bottom of my ears. Well, my parents both had strokes. My aunts and uncles, they didn't speak to me. Anyway. So, there was a time in the 60s where it was thought communal living is going to work. I don't think because they were living communally, that means that can work here today. Are you kidding? In our American culture, we are so segregated in our own ways. I'm not talking about race here or color or anything. I'm just saying we all, because we have cars and houses of our own, we do our own thing, we go on our own trips, we can travel around the world if we have the money. So we have a hard time doing that. We come here on Sunday morning and Wednesday night. That's basically it. We try to come together as one. I venture to say we are definitely not a facsimile, we are a shred like that first church. Now, I think they thought Jesus was coming back right away. I think they were kind of going up and sitting on top of the hill so they get first shot, They didn't think they needed any of this stuff. But still, it's a remarkable thing. That's what we need to learn from. They were willing to think of other people literally more important than themselves and give up everything they had. And there was no needy person among them. Now, that happens to us sometimes. There are people who have tremendous needs and we don't always know about it. That's one thing. should be needy people in the church and among the people of God. And if we know that there's needy people, whether they're a part of this, the fellowship here or anywhere else, and even if they are completely outside of God, he didn't say don't feed them. Of course he said feed them too. And I'm not just talking about literally feeding them food, but I'm talking about reaching out and trying to help them. When a church becomes so inward, all about us and what we do and the things we have, the world just drifts away. Did you know, I don't know the statistic anymore. I used to know the number, but I'm sure it's changed anyway. Once a person has been involved in the church, come to Jesus for about 2 years, the chances that they are going to bring anybody new into the fellowship or into Jesus are less than like 10%. Now, don't take that to heart and say, well, I'm done. We don't have to fit into that formula. Here's the reason. Most of the time, it seems when we become plugged into a fellowship of people, we get very tied to that group, whether it's healthy or not healthy, but that becomes our world. And I think what Jesus wanted us to do was come together, seek Him, seek His Word, and then go out to the people. That's what He did. That's why they gave Him such a hard time. He went out, and He hung out with the tax collectors and the prostitutes, and the people that everybody else thought, ooh, stay away from that group. That's why He's criticized so heavily, of course. The other thing they did, which is not in the scripture, but we're not going to read all these scriptures. We won't have time. It's too much to absorb. But it is very apparent there was something else going on that was extremely important. And this is where we need to be right now. This is where I'm going today. They became witnesses to what they had seen and heard. Now, guys, look, here's how I know this for a fact. This is Acts, the 2nd chapter. Now, I'm not a good enough Bible scholar, don't remember enough from Bible college. I had to forget a lot of what I learned in Bible college to be able to function, but sorry, you probably don't understand what that means unless you've been. But anyway, it's good, but we used to call it the angel factory, stamping out people. But we've all got to be ourselves. Anyway, this is Acts, the 2nd chapter. By Acts, the 4th chapter, the 3,000 had become, and it's very specific here, 5,000 men. Now that doesn't count the women and children. So, how much time passed between Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 4? I don't know if anybody knows that, but it was probably a matter of days. If it was anything more than that, it might have been weeks. I do not know. I've never studied that. I know it's a very short time, because persecution had just begun to start. Not against the whole group, but against the apostles. Between Acts 2 and Acts 4, the apostles got in trouble. Peter and John got arrested because they healed the lame guy, and they hauled him in. They hauled them both in, and they threatened him and told him, you can't do this. They went right out, they had a prayer meeting, and they became very bold and went right back out, and they did it again. And they told these guys, they said, look, whether we obey you or not, they kind of said, yeah, that's your problem. We cannot help but talk about what we have seen and heard. And some of the people, I'm venturing to say if there were 5,000 men by the 4th chapter of Acts, there had to be, conservatively at least 10,000 people in the church already in a matter of days or at the most weeks. And in spite of the fact that the government, as it were, the government and the religion of the Jews was one and the same. It was the same thing. It was already turning against them. The tide was turning. They talk about persecution didn't really officially begin on a kind of a wide scale until they killed Stephen, which I think somewhere around the 7th chapter, I can't remember, but a few chapters later they killed Stephen. Paul helped do that. His name was Saul then. He became Paul. Well, in spite of everybody working against him, it exploded. the math, as I told you a couple weeks ago, was not addition or subtraction, it was multiplication. Because these people, it couldn't have just been the 12 apostles. No, 12 again, they replaced Judas. Had to be everyone. And I didn't do all this morning to try to make you feel guilty. Some of us have been together for eons here, and some of you are new, and you need to know whether you're new or been here forever, everybody is equally important. We've never, I don't think, I can't speak for every person, I don't know what everybody literally does. As a church, we've always been known for accepting anybody that walks in the door. And this is not a sermon about getting people in church, although you should think about that. Look what they did in a few days or a few weeks with threats hanging over their heads. I remember time churches with a dollar. I remember it was $1 to everybody who taught on Sunday. I thought, wow, I'll try just about anything, especially I will bribe with whatever it takes, but we're going to give a silver dollar to everybody who comes to service this morning. What in the world is going on? Where are these silver dollars getting handed out? Not them. People were testifying about the Word, which was Jesus. And they were bold. You guys, if we're gonna really affect people for Jesus, and secondly, if we're going to make this group become strong again, there's going to need to be some boldness. I don't mean that to be a bad thing at all. It's a good thing. I'm not talking about in your face. You're going to hell, you better get into church. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about getting into Jesus. Because when you're into Jesus, you don't have to think about whether you want to be involved in fellowship. It's just a natural thing that comes with it. And for people, I'm not saying they don't know Jesus. It's not what I'm saying is they don't always let Him make the effectual changes in their lives as they maybe should. Well, I thought about boldness a lot. I just think my dad was the bravest guy in the world. He was pretty brave, I think. And I have some stories about that. But I remember being really scared as a kid. I grew up as a scared kid. I think much to do with my brother being killed when I was 10, and I had full intentions of going with him that day. He didn't go, and I had no idea why, because I went with him all the time. He was my hero. He was a preacher when he was 18, and he was phenomenal, and I just like to go at 10 and actually listen. I didn't go that morning, but I lived with a lot of fear. My dad always had these old beat-up cars, because in those days, the women did not work out of the home, basically. My mother did not work. She didn't drive for quite some time. So my dad worked really hard in the oil fields up where I came from. And he was almost never home. But there was nothing more comforting to me at night. It'd be midnight if he was on that shift. I'd hear his old car coming to the driveway. I'd go to sleep. He probably wasn't the bravest man in the world, but I thought he was. And I think we misunderstand boldness. My two sons, Luke and Ben, grew up during the no fear phase in the pulp culture. Remember that? Nike did that for us, no fear. Here's what it cost me. We built the biggest half pipe in Hardy County in my yard. It was 40 feet long and 12 feet high. They don't even use those hardly at the world competition, but I have one in my yard. Unfortunately, it rotted. We had to cut it into big chunks. We had turned into one of the biggest fires you've ever seen. But the no fear concept got one of my kids with 2 busted knees that would never work right, and the other with a shattered leg with screws in it. Now, it must have been some screws missing in my head, but this is what they wanted to do. But what it meant was trying to do things a human body not meant to do, on skates and rollerblades the skateboards on, maybe, you know what a half pipe is, it goes like that. And I only went down one time. It's enough for me. I didn't land real well. And so I didn't hit my head, just in case you're thinking that. But anyway, hit another part of me. But no fear. I hear people talk about that. And people that do unbelievable things in war, or when the Twin Towers came down. We've heard story after story about heroes who went in, dragged people out. It's all true. But I've watched everything I can find. I'm a history freak anyway. I watch just about everything I can find on the wars of this world, not because I'm entertained in any way, shape, or form. It's the biggest war ever. But what I look for is what I see in people. This is what I believe. You can believe what you want. But I think it's probably true. A bold person can have a lot of fear. In fact, if there is no fear, in my opinion, where's boldness? Because if I don't have anything to fear, I can walk into this situation, there's nothing to fear. That's not boldness. There's nothing to fear anyway. Bring my 2-year-old in here. But when there's something to fear, and I face it, that's boldness. And that's what these people were doing. Guys, this is what you've got to do in your own personal life if you're struggling with anything. Like Tony's recent loss, like many people that you know and love who are very sick, about your job, it doesn't look like it's working out the way you thought it would, about your finances that don't work out the way you think they should. You should not live in fear. Fear should not grip us, but fear is a gift from God. Now, I need to know that when a grizzly bear is looking at me, that I should run. That should scare me a little bit. You say, well, if you're really brave or bold, you run right toward him. Well, that's called stupid. Anyway, no, I won't go into that. But you see, without fear, boldness, in my definition, doesn't exist. I think, were those people afraid? I've heard preachers and different people talk, we need to be like the early Christians. They didn't have any fear. They faced the lions. Those people were afraid, I guarantee you. Any sense at all. You're going to be thrown into an arena with gladiators, and animals, or you're going to be hauled off and beheaded or killed or in prison because you believed in Jesus and were following the teachings of Jesus. You would have some fear. I have fears right now about this country. I have fears about the future, the church, what it will look like in 10 years, 20 years, what this country will look like in 10 years, 20 years, whatever. I'm not going to live in fear because I know God is in control ultimately. Amen. The United States is not the church. It is not the people of God. Remember that. The United States is the greatest country I think probably ever been on the planet. We got a lot of things right and we got a lot of things wrong, obviously, because we're just people. But many, many Christians in this country. But I'm afraid, and I'm not going to just live in fear. But I can't be bold if fear isn't present. You're not bold just because you're afraid. That's a big one to learn. I think sometimes reaching out to certain people. I've been lighting candles for certain people too. Sherry, she wasn't here, and I couldn't think of her. Sherry's lit my candles for me on Sundays. I have talked to all of these people. But I will tell you right now, it's been a few weeks now, because I've been afraid to talk to them. Why? It's different in every case. This one, this reason, that one, that reason. Boldness, would overpower that and move forward. Okay, so the boldness applies to us. What I really want us to do is embrace Jesus. So I asked myself, all this stuff, which we could talk forever about what they were doing. The question, this is where we are, this is where we end, this is what you take home. How did they do this? How did they do this? How did they give up their very valued possessions, which were really hard to come by now? Israel was a poverty-stricken nation. People were poor for the most part. What they had meant their very existence. They were embracing. This would be just like if I got up this morning and we decided we're going to start a new religion here, and we're going to follow this guy named Fred. Well, they were stepping out of hundreds of years of how they had worshipped God and what they had believed, and the legalism and all this endless rules that the Jewish, leaders created for them. They were stepping out and they were believing in this name God called Jesus, who said he was the Son of God. And they believed it because of what they'd seen here. But I still constantly ask myself, why? How? Now they were bold. How? Well, I'll go back. Mike, go back to verse 42. This is what I want you to think about. Emily, your time's coming, so come on up here so that I can just share. She loves me, and she trusts me, I think. No, we need to go back. No, we need to go back, sorry. Here we go. I want to go back to this verb, because I think it turns the light on the whole thing we've been talking about all these weeks. So then those who had received his word were baptized. I'm not talking about baptism, but I'm talking about that's translated those who received his word. Studied that word a bunch. It has a bunch of definitions. And I landed on one that I think, I can't remember if I found a translation that uses it or not. Mine would, because it is a meaning of that particular verb, to receive. It's the word embrace. Now, I'm going to illustrate it this way. Cross your other leg, Emily. I'm not trip on that leg. I'm going to walk right through here. All right, Emily, you know me. Let's just say you know me, but we're not Emily and my Graham. We're just two people, but you know me. And I'm going to come by and going to greet you in different ways. Actually, you can move the chair over that way. Turn it clear around. Turn it clear around. I told you she had no clue. Go back a little bit. Yeah, okay, I thought it through, but not enough. I want them to see. Now, we're just talking about how people are greeted. Okay? So, Emily, you know this person. He's walking by. Did you see that little nod of the head? How'd that feel? Kind of what? A little bit what? Yeah. This is somebody you know well. This is somebody who's a friend. Good friend. Good friend comes by. Yeah. You're thinking, what did I do? What's wrong with me? I come by again. You haven't seen me in a while. Hey. How'd that feel? Better? You know better. Right, you're not really used to this approach, but Hey, is that getting better? Did it really feel right? You know me better. There's no warmth there. So, you're coming in. Emily. I see you. That ain't better? Okay. Come on, one more time. Owie. How did that feel? Here's one. This is my analysis. Once again, when I'm just giving you opinion, I always like to tell you this is strictly opinion. I've listened to, I don't know, umpteen people preach, talk, teach, conferences here, there, you talk, workshops, all this stuff. What's wrong? What's wrong in the church? What's wrong with Christianity? Why does it struggle? Why is it so hard to reach people for Jesus today? It seems to be really hard. Some churches are doing quite well, but a lot of churches are really struggling. And I'm always looking for, and you guys that know me know that I'm always looking for what's down at the bottom of the pile. Like my purpose here on Sundau is not to give you facts necessarily or try to teach you, let's recite the 12 apostles, and name the 12 tribes for me, and quote these scriptures and those scriptures. That's all important, and that stuff, you can do that in a classroom. I want, through God's help and the Holy Spirit, to affect the way you think. That's what I feel called to do. It's neither right nor wrong, it's just who I am. It took me a long time to figure that out. Here's what I think is at the root of all we struggle with. Those people, the Word was literally, for all practical purposes, the things the apostles were teaching. And we call the Word, we call this the Word, because the things the apostles taught were eventually written down in all the letters, and some of them even helped write the Gospels. But who was the Word? It was Jesus. So when you hear the Word, you can think about the Bible if you want, but it didn't exist in this form at that point. When I hear the word there, I think of Jesus, because the Bible clearly says Jesus was the Word. He was the expression of God on earth. He was God in the flesh, Emmanuel. What did they do with the Word? They embraced it. Yeah. That's different than what we see. It may be different than what you see in your own life. It is a selling out for a cause. How do you think God feels? How do you think Jesus feels when all he gets is a glance or a nod or hey, what's up? And let's just embrace him. And you're capable of unbelievable things. I'm going to close with a couple of stories that I wanted to tell for a while. They're about boldness, but they're about the little kids who embraced the heart of what it means to follow Jesus. I don't know that the first one was a Christian. True story about two brothers quite a long time ago. Not like back in early American history, but I don't know when it was. I'm guessing maybe mid-1950s, something like that. One was dying. The older brother was dying. He needed blood, and rare blood. And as it were, as odd as it is, his little brother, had the same blood. I know, it's pretty impressive. That was a good target, thank you. I don't know, we have that too, but that's pretty cool. Because I like special effects whenever I get them. Well, his younger brother, I can't tell you the ages, but the best I remember the story, because I've known it for a long time. I forget details. I think the older brother was about 10, and the younger brother was like 6 or 7, so he's little. That's really little we take the blood from. But in those days, it was life and death. They would have done that. They set him down. They told him that his brother needed to get blood from him or he wouldn't live. He's very quiet. taking, of course, a pint of blood. And this is what he said. How long? Before I die. I've been that little kid, I don't know. I don't know that he knew Jesus, but I feel like he must have. I know that he embraced, as a 6 or 7-year-old, what he understood. He thought he would die to save his brothers, kill his blood. Kids are just an unbelievable example. When the communists just went full-fledged, dropped the hammer down over there in the east, Russia, what used to be the satellite nations, taken by communism, they really started cleansing. They're killing Christians right and left. Ironic, now they use Bibles, I've heard in Russian schools now, and we're outlawing them. But anyway, if you read anything about their history and how they worked, of course they're very intelligent, very calculated in what they were setting out to do. So their goal was always to reach the kids. The younger, the better. They wanted the kids to report their parents if they had Bibles or they talked about Jesus. And I'm sure many kids did out of pure fear. It's a true story. I'm sure there are many more like it. Armed soldiers, during the height of when they were putting the clamps on the people of Russia, armed soldiers came into a kindergarten room. 4 or 5-year-olds. They put a picture of Jesus. I don't know what the picture was, but it was probably one of the old traditional pictures. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. They laid a Bible down. Another story in my head. They laid a Bible down in the center of the room. And these armed guys, adult men, told these kindergartners and made them line up one by one. They said, we want you to go by and spit on the Bible, because this is bad. They all went by, one by one. One girl left, hold it back. Wish I knew her name. She knew how to track that down. She went up to the Bible. She wiped all the spit off. And she kissed it. And they shot her dead. Or the other kids. We gotta give silver dollars away to get people to play in. Again, I'm not talking about church attendance, although it should be a good idea if we thought about that. Come out, embracing Jesus, so that great things can happen. Somehow I feel like I'd never be on that level. You would hope you would if you were in that position. I don't think any of us could know. We might say, I would never deny Jesus. Peter said that more than once. What a hero, a 5-year-old girl. Make us look small. Let the band come on up. As we sing, just for a couple minutes here, if you need to make a new commitment to Jesus at all, you can come. There's chairs up here, kind of like an altar in a sense, where you can just pray. If you need prayer for something, come up here. We kind of reserve that side for people who don't want to be bothered, who just want to come and pray for a little bit. Please come if you've never accepted Jesus. Gosh, now's the day. just giving it a nod, a hello, a greeting. I wrap my arms around the Son of God in my life. I pray that you'll do that. You may need to come and just pray about that. All right? So, Tony, I don't mean to embarrass you. I'll ask you all these things. You just come up here. But some of you come up and just pray for Tony. Just lost his mom yesterday. Very close to him. So let's all stand. I don't care who comes. Just gather around and just look at him. Lord, create to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be the living sanctuary. Service will be at First Assembly on 4th Avenue. 4, 2, 3. I had to get there actually 3 o'clock. Anything else they need to know?
It's a celebration of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I still use the word funeral because it's been decades of this, but of course it's a celebration of life. Thank you. And I know the same way to Carrie. We don't know when that'll be yet. Correct, Tony? As I said, that will be here at this building sometime. Not sure what time, what day that is, but we'll put it out there as soon as we know. Thank you again for being here. For heaven's sake, I'm not using that as an expression. I'm using that literally. Reach out to somebody. Okay? If you can't think of anybody, you're not thinking very hard. We got more empty seats than we do full seats. And it's not all about just filling the building, but an empty building is a sign of something. I'm not sure it's a good sign. But God loves us. You guys are great people. He wants to use you. Let's embrace Jesus. Father in heaven, we praise you. Thank you. We're blessed, Lord. We know that. And in our weakness, you are made strong. We will only be bold, Lord, if we allow your Holy Spirit to fill us all the way down to the floor, Lord. That will give us that boldness. Lord, I know you don't force your way on people. You are waiting for us to reach out and not just give you a nod, but wrap our arms around your Son, Jesus. Just embrace your word this week. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Hey, no running. No running. You're skipping, but you're running.
Go now.
That's what she wants to do. And I says, I'm doing it right.
They may have just used the wiring harness, I don't know, 250 or something, you know?
Yeah, and it's, everything seems to be functioning right now on it.
Okay. I just want to make sure before I told that guy anything.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, it's fine as far as I can tell.
I didn't want to tell him where I know, unless I know for sure where I know.
Yeah, yeah, well, it's,
Keep getting smaller.
I need to look under the.
Yeah, it's bad, but I mean, you drive it, so you can't drive it no more, but find something, I mean, like, now,
I have a lot of land.
stuff pops up.
Does this go down?
I got on the mower boat, and the mower broke. I had to come and find, and I went and bought a belt, come back and find out I gotta rebuild the whole mower there. So I got 2 bad bearings, spindles, and 4 out of 5 of the labor pulleys have bad bearings. One of them, the reason.
That's the kind of money we gotta do a piece of like that.
Yeah, it's, I
Gotta
said,
find another deck and
I
probably.
said, I don't know. But anyway, that's what I'll be doing tomorrow, is working on the mower there. And all the time, the grass is growing.
And I have to go to Tampa and spend $400.
That's it, that's just one thing. Yeah.
And I'll pay my equipment because I increased
Other stuff is hooked to the,
another gig with my DJ. It's only once a month,
issues with these.
but I have to have updated stuff.
Yeah, I figured a few
So-
things to work out, and Joel can hook a scanner to it, so
Right.
see that.
But,
That's right.
but just like
Yeah.
you were preaching
I haven't
today,
had a chance to look at it, green out off of it, I
get
didn't.
rid of the phone and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know how much I was here, I know it kept raining over there. When I got to Marto, I mean,
Survive
yeah,
until
Marto.
we go
Yeah,
home.
Lake Wales, Albany, I had to wait for 30 minutes to park, like, I was nowhere so hard, I couldn't.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of noticed that we don't obviously, being wealthy is not the most important thing in us in the world.
Okay, thanks, you know,
That's not a priority, right?
You need certain stuff, I guess, to live in this culture the way we live. I think we don't need
Well,
most.
you know, when the air conditioner goes out, it's an emergency.
I guess I gotta go, so.
It's an emergency because you gotta understand. Yeah, because the houses back in the old days were designed. I keep my head, they're not now. They're not now, so, you know, the real lot easier to live in a house 100 years ago without it. It would be living in a house.
Yeah, you do well, if you've never had it, you don't miss it. You don't miss what you don't have. You never had it.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I would feel silly asking God, I said, Jesus, I know when you walked this earth over in Palestine, you did not have air conditioning. Jesus, please help me get my air conditioner fixed.
Well, I lived on the road and found out that you can survive 2 weeks in a hotel room with just a suitcase full of clothes. You can survive your life. You know what I mean?